So, hi Edward, it's been a few months since we last talked. What's been happening with the Benito farms?
Oh, kia ora, Auntie Liz. Just what's pretty much been happening is that Aotearoa already who used the working arm of our trust or Tiro and Tahapi to make contact with Jean to try and come back and so we can discuss about buying our two farms back off the Chinese. Unbeknown to us that a sale and purchase agreement had already gone down with yourself. We had to take that purchase and sales agreement that you had with the Crafars back to our families to show them that the farms had already been sold. But at the same time, our trustees, Hardy Penny, had said that he was under the understanding that the government had already signed the land over to the Chinese with Landcorp. What we had to do was we had to ask our trustees to take it to court to get to the bottom of it, actually. Try and see what has happened with that purchase and sale agreement with yourself. The missed opportunities they didn't do was A, turn up at the Hamilton High Court when yourself was going through the courts. From our occupation we got arrested, went to court. I had to plead to the charge of trespass and then state why I was there, and the reasons I was there was because the land had been mis-surveyed by the surveyors back in the 1800s. 1886 was when my tupuna Te Otami Taringitanga had taken this to court with his sons, Wehi, Tutaki and Tataro, to discuss about the confiscation of these two farms that at the time people just thought that we were just occupying only 4 hectares of the farm, but really it was the both farms. So when we went to court, I explained to the rangatira of the court, her name was Judge Denise Clark from Tarawa, off the waka of Tamatakapua, Tarawa, that something has happened to us was an injustice of we being the original owners to be trespassed off our lands. I was just a bit confused at how receivers could trespass me off land that was actually originally belonged to our tupuna. And upon showing the judge that we had permission from yourself, the person that had purchased the land off the Crafars, and giving us the okay to continue with our peaceful protest. Through all of that, the courts ended up dropping the charges. Our trustees, I must say, is he says one thing and does something else. I'm referring to Hardy Penny. Is that when we told him as our family to go off and try and get us a deal, is that when he's been sitting with Michael Fay and them, he's only been drip feeding us the information, and that's really just in our way, that's wrong. In our way from Aotearoa, who he thinks he's the iwi. He was told to do a job and he hasn't been handling it too well. We told him that he needs to bring those Chinese to our marae so we could talk to their spiritual people, and then he could talk to ours, and then we can just let's just get to know one another. That was for our people's sake. And from there is that we've been having that our chairman has given his waha to other people, and to me that's not what our people of Reriahu is. The offside to this is that I try to explain to our family about the sale and purchase, the assumptions regarding them, and a lot of our family that I tried to explain it to was over their heads. They couldn't understand it. And
well, just one thing, if I can interrupt you.
Yeah.
I just feel like, you know, Hanson said my sale and purchase agreement was a nullity, if you like. It was a private treaty. That's what a sale and purchase agreement is known as, a private treaty.
yes,
And so I feel like, you know, I'm in good company. There's been another treaty that was called a nullity one time too.
yes, yes,
So, you know, but it was proved in the end, of course it was not a nullity.
that's right.
So, you know, where we are today has been founded on, there's mistakes made, but they all get corrected in the end.
Oh, that's right.
So, but you know, when the so-called legal brains of the country, which, you know, Judge Sim was a legal brain of the country when he called the treaty a simple nullity, the same sorts of legal brains in the country are doing the same thing now with sale and purchase agreements.
And that's what sort of like gets up my arse, as one would say. Some say it gets up their noses, but what gets up my arse is that we live under the law of LORE from within Aotearoa of Aotearoa o Reriahu. LORE is our law, but we always seem to be dictated by LAW, the terminologies. Each time we go into to speaking to the government regarding the return of lands, what had happened is that the Tamaru of Reriahu had went into direct negotiations with the government to get back land that wasn't confiscated. It was actually sold off from different tribes. Now, with these different tribes and different rangatiras that had sold off their part of Marairo A and B, that's just on the other side of the Crafar farm that we were occupying.
Oh yes.
A part of the offices of treaty settlements is that they were prepared to give us back 4 hectares.
Oh, that's the resumption 4 hectares.
Yes.
The resumption memorial.
Yes.
Yeah, certificate of title that we were referring to, the resumption memorial under section 27B of the State-Owned Enterprises Act. It's going to put that on this video. So what happened with that 4 hectares?
Well, what happened is that we are a member of Tamaru of Reriahu Trustees. We were put there by our family of Reriahu to try and negotiate these 2 farms back with this other land that other iwis had sold off back in the 1880s. They didn't actually confirm the sale and purchase agreement until about 1891.
Right, and there's some issues about the boundaries as well.
Yes, yes. Now, what we had said that when these, what we had said to the officers of treaty settlement is that I don't know how you fellas can settle with people that had sold their lands off way back in the 1880s, and yet for us, we're one of the very first rohes within the rohe portai to object about these two farms, how they were actually the wrong surveyings had come in. And then the government, they had acknowledged that things had that had gone wrong. So what they did is that they had offered back the 4 hectares. We were supposed to buy the 4 hectares back off them for $40,000.
Why buy? Because under the State-Owned Enterprises Act, if you take that claim to the Waitangi Tribunal and it goes in your favour, then that's the law, because it's actually what do they call, an incorporation of the treaty into statute, into domestic law. That's one of the occasions that can happen. So why were they trying to charge you $40,000 for it?
Well, the $40,000 was like $28,000 a hectare for dairy farm land.
But it's your land. I mean, they should have been paying you. So sorry that it was being sitting in, you know. I mean, there's no reason that you should pay for any of it.
And that's where I refer to back LAW.
Did your trustees pay the government for it?
No, but our trustees were prepared to pay for it at that time, right, in the very beginning of negotiations.
Oh, okay.
But
you put them right.
Yeah, well, I think the occupation sort of shook them up. Yes. Before we actually went in with the officers of treaty settlement, that we explained to them that we're really concerned about these lands being sold to the Chinese. And it's like we kept on saying, is that we have nothing against the Chinese.
No, of course not.
It was just what these other people had done, referring to the government, is that they want to try and settle land claims with a tribe, thinking that we were going to just sit still about them settling up with us. Now, we told the officers of treaty settlement down Wellington that if you fellows are going to sell this land to anyone else, that we're going to do a peaceful occupation. And then from there, that's what happened in the end. The officers of treaty settlement might have settled with Te Maru Reriahu, but the people that had got their lands back, they were from Ngāti Whakatere, Ngāti Matakore. They were all part of Reriahu, but today, since the time of them selling the lands back in the 1800s, our family of Ngāti Reriahu tū Whakahikia, we always held on to our land. We've always had well over 18,000 hectares of land that's connected to our maunga o Piriora Okahu, and all the rivers that's surrounding the Piriora district and the district of Tiwa and Tahape are Mōkau, Waipa, Manga Okua, Manga Pihi, the Wharepapa, and the Whanganui. Well, from our maunga o Piriora Okahu you go Waimiha, Ongoroi, Whanganui, it's all one river. Those are all the things that we still hold today, but the significance to our occupation was regarding those two farms. And you know, there's always a hope that the powers to be, that they would address this problem. And I suppose I was quite lucky this year on Anzac Day.
No, oh, Anzac Day, yes.
Anzac Day.
25th of April.
25th of April was that time. That we had signed a lease.
Yes, we did.
With the sale and purchase of the land.
Yes.
People that yourself
yes.
that had bought the land of the Crafar family. And to date, it's like the Treaty of Waitangi. The government just takes no notice of it.
Yeah, yeah.
But their sale and purchase to the Chinese through Landcorp, it's recognised, and they come afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know the law on LAW, you know, but when you get into the terminology of how land got transferred from Emery to the government, to the Crafar brothers, from the Crafar brothers, everything was going fine. And then when they, I don't know, dirty farming got them buggered up, and then they had to hurry up and sell the farm off, and then they sold it.
I heard something about that though,
yeah.
From Alan Crafar. I sold 5 farms back to him recently, right? And when Alan looked at me, and well actually I sold 2 to Alan, I sold 3 to his wife, right? And I put the money, because everybody says, but how can she do this? She's a bankrupt and all this rubbish. Of course I can still do transactions, but I have to pay any money extra that I get into my, what's called my estate account, because I'm commercially dead. So it goes into my estate account with the official assignee, and I paid the money that they paid me for the farms into my estate account. So it's all well, you know, it's all documented, etc., etc. But Alan looked at me and he said, well, you know, Liz, he said, about 30 million of that was the credit swaps. And I said, what? What do you mean? He said, well, you know, oh, and then he got a bit defensive and he says, oh, well, you know, about 80% of farmers in New Zealand are doing this stuff. And I said, is this credit default swaps? He says, what's that? I said, well, that's the bigger word for it, because what the banks did, the central banks in the world did, they swapped around bad debts, basically, and those bad debts are called securities. And what the bankers did, they lost money on that, and then they had to pay it back. So they started to make out that farms weren't doing well, or they couldn't pay enough, etc., etc. Because I was looking through the papers the other day, they had a $6 million overdraft. That's what they put them into receivership over. A $6 million overdraft over 16 farms, was it? 16 farms? It's nothing. It's nothing. So, you know, in terms of, you know, it's been a setup. It's been a setup. There's a big scam going on to take the land. But anyway, he sold it to me before it could get sold to the pension. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm the owner anyway.
And I think so too.
And you're my leasing.
And I think so too.
Yeah.
You know, and when you put it back, how it all just involves $16 million. What it tells me is that
$6 million.
$6 million. What it tells me is that there was a few of the bank hierarchies are sitting in the good old boys' office, hey, and then they are sort of like manipulating the progress, facilitating. And there's a lot of nepotism going on amongst themselves to change this to, like you just mentioned, the swapping around, the taking aid. So it was pretty much all preempted, you know. And the real sad thing about this is that you are caught up in the bureaucracy of LAW. And LAW is pretty much ruling us in a way that they don't adhere to our law of LORE. and there seemed to be a clash, but I'd just like to add is that the LRE and the LAW, when they met in the courts of Tikawiti, is in the end, is that they knew I was right, Denise Clark.
LORE.
You know, when I said that I'm the victim here. It was my tupunas in 1886 had come to the courts to point out that the surveying was wrong. And through these surveyors, they kept on trying to take it back to court, but the court outlived my koros.
Yes. Yes.
And it outlived my koros' sons, my other koros, and it outlived my uncles, my mums and dads, and now it's left to us.
Yes, and we have to do the job.
And I feel really sorry for a lot of my family that had passed on, because I don't think they wanted to leave it for their mokopunas. And through, you know, through the man upstairs there, Liz, you know, there is a silver lining in this in the end.
Absolutely. We're winning as far as I'm concerned.
Is that it gave us an opportunity to meet up, and when I saw your sale and purchase agreement, well, I could see that those documents were true. Yes. And then we took the opportunity to lease those two farms for 99 years. Yes,
and the Chinese will come to the table with you in the end, and those lease agreements will be on it.
And we're hoping that when the Chinese people do come in, that they bring their spiritual people with themselves to our marae, so they can sit down with our tohungas and talk about our whakawhanaungatanga, and then later on go into the business. Before we can go into business, we have to have those family ties.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's great things ahead.
Yes.
There's great things ahead. It's interesting, there's a stained glass window over in the shelter here.
Yes.
And it's, I hadn't noticed it before. I looked up and it's Pākehā on one side, Maori in the middle, and Chinese on the other side, walking together. So this area's got some Chinese input.
Yes, and what it is
from way back,
is that when the Chinese first come to New Zealand, that they were recognised only as second-class citizens, like ourselves, but they actually had what we call kapita moi. They slept with the tangata whenua, and then they got kids here too. And our tupuna that stands out in the front, his name is Tū Whakahikiao. His korowai goes all the way back up to the maunga of Pretty Order, and he actually is the supreme leader of Aotearoa, of Rediahu. And what I would should actually bring out is our tupuna tonga, Tū Whakahikiao, the Pounamu. This is our tonga from Ituku Iho, passed down through whakapapa, off the waka o Tainui, down to Rediahu, down to his ton, Tū Whakahikiao, down to my tupuna, Te Otami Te Rangitanga, down to Wehi Te Rangitanga, down through his sons, and I'm the great grandson, and it's been handed down to me. What I had said to my trustees of Tiro and Tahape is that when we were trying to speak to the Chinese was, if they come and talk to us about this land, is that, and we did a deal with these farms, is that we were going to pass this tonga of our tupunas to them, as in what we call a gesture of goodwill. And that was prior to us going into that deal with you there, Liz. But because we had already said to our chairman is that if we could bring them to the table as a goodwill gesture, is that this tonga would come to them. My family, upon hearing what I was going to do, is that they were quite shocked. They were saying, no, you shouldn't, but the significance to this land was it had to come at all costs. To get something, you had to give something. So the only thing that I could think of that have such high significance within our rohe o Reriahu was our taonga of tū whakahikia to pass to our haere mana. And that was the reasons why we needed them to come to our marae out there at Reriahu, so we can understand this, the spiritualness to our whenua, to our tongas. To get one tonga back, we have to sacrifice another tonga. As they say, for everything that you want, there is a sacrifice. And how far are we willing to make the sacrifice? Here it is. This is the sacrifice. And you know, Liz, I'm really humbled in your approach. And talking to you today is like to get clarity in these matters, because we all know that it's going to go back to court again.
Yes, it is.
You know, like with everything, we've always got to try and find a way through it. And I do believe that the time is right to actually try and move forward, try and get the government to recognise the sale and purchase agreement with yourself and the Crafars. Sale and purchase agreement is between yourself, like you did with the Crafars, and then like again with yourself regarding us to lease the land. I feel that it's a true document.
Like the treaty is a treaty of peaceful occupation, a sale and purchase agreement is a treaty of occupation. Peaceful occupation.
Yes. The ill thoughts of the government at the times to just come in and use a surveyor's, a protractor line to confiscate this land and you know, to try and correct the wrongs. We thought going in the direct negotiations regarding Marairo A and B that we might have been able to sort out all the past discrepancies, but we didn't. And I feel a bit sad by it, but I suppose, you know, the only way to sort out something sad is you just got to keep on fighting.
Very true.
And
as long as you do the correct thing.
Yes, pray to the man upstairs.
Yes.
Hopefully to get into those judges and governments' heads.
Because let them see the light of it.
Yes, so you know, and like I was saying is thanks to all our whānau out there to to log in, listen to our kōrero, to understand where we stand in the struggle, how we have to facilitate to sort things out, and I think you have to have these entrepreneurial skills to, but most of it is all in goodwill.
Yes, yes.
Everything that's done in business is always done in goodwill, and
goodwill to other people.
Aye.
Yeah. It's not a balance sheet that we're interested in. It's,
oh, that's right.
And the balance sheet will always be good if the people looked after.
Yes. And hopefully in the not too distant future is that we'll come back and say to our families that log in on this is that the government in the end recognised that we had a 99-year lease. As I got to remind the family out there, it was actually the government that first brought in the 99-year lease.
Yeah.
100-year lease. So for myself from Ngāti Rereahu, I don't see any difference between ourselves going through that 99-year lease. And I got to thank you very, very much to this, you know, to giving our family the opportunity to sign that document. And I just hope that the governments all recognise that document as I saw it, and as you saw it when you bought the farms off the Crafars. People are just mystified as the amount, but to me, it was never about the amount. It was about the goodwill gesture, about whatever you made with that Alan Crafar, you would like to.
He did it. He did a good thing, Alan.
Yeah. Yep. For him doing like he did, and for him to sell it to you, that gave us an opportunity to come along and to lease the land. You know, so. And I believe the documents that I've still got today is true. And powers to be, I just wish the courts would believe it. You know.
Yeah, I think part of it is that no judge wants to be the one who breaks the grip that the banks have got here. You know, in terms of pushing people around on land, you know, forcing sales, etc., etc., rather than going mortgagee in possession, which they could have done in the case of the Crafars. But they did want to asset strip, they did want to get rid of the land to pay off their gambling debts, and you know, so their will was not good, but they're a thing, they're not people in actual fact. That's a system that's working. So I believe that even bankers are redeemable, if you like. Maybe they'll see it all in the end as well. Yes. But we know that we've done the right thing. Yes. And that we will be, if you like, successful in the end. But I believe that we have become successful, and we go from success to success. I mean, even if Alan and Beth, of course it was, as the directors of the farm who signed those original sale and purchase agreements, even if they were just maybe thinking of their own situation, as time goes on you can see it develop that more and more people are benefiting by that, what they did. And you know, we never start off doing something except for our own good. But then if we can start to open our eyes and say, you know, that there might be actually even things that look like bad situations might have been put there to give us a chance to be good, you know. So the strife that the Crafars have come across the last couple of years, and they have been in a bad situation, you know, it gave them a chance to do something really good. Yeah. And in the end, you know, they have their, well, they've got 5 of the farms. It's just a matter of them going on to the farms and going off to be arrested as trespassers, and then going off to court, and of course it gets dropped in the end because law. People tend to think, law is you're talking about Indigenous people. They use that word, but it's also a word that's used in the English sense as well. That it's basically the common law should be spelled L-O-R-E, because it's actually the actions of people who are doing the right things. That's the way the world works. If you do the right things, you don't run foul of the common law. If you do the wrong things, you run foul of it. And you could also sort of almost say that it's like the common law, equity is an expression of that, So when I say I have the equitable use of that land and you have it as my lessee, the equitable use of it, that's L-O-R-E in the English or in the English tradition, I suppose, because it developed as the common law through the English tradition. But it holds everywhere in the world. People have a body of rules that comes down as from through the Ten Commandments, or whichever. Some people haven't got a tradition of the Ten Commandments, but then people know right from wrong. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not tell lies about other people or tell lies at all, those sorts of things. So they're all L-O-R-E. So L-A-W cannot, because that's supposed to be based on L-O-R-E actually. So it cannot, we cannot do anything but win in the end.
Oh, yes, I think so too.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. And that's a fabulous thing you're going to do with the Chinese when they come to the table. That's
very significant.
Very significant. Actually, it's funny that there's a hearing of the Waitangi Tribunal today in Kikawiti.
Yes, yes. And with this tribunal that's happening today in Tikawiti and Ngāti Rora is that we as the victim has to prove to the tribunal that something's amiss, and we have to prove to them that that we actually owned it, and then we have to come up with all these terminologies on quotations that happened in the 1800s, and we're supposed to know what do you think that they meant by these letters.
Oh dear.
And it's all our terminology, it's so frustrating.
But the Waitangi Tribunal itself has some binding powers. For example, that section 27B of the State-Owned Enterprises Act, there was also an act of Parliament in 1989 that I think it was the State-Owned Forests Act, and so but there's so decisions of the Waitangi Tribunal, if claims are brought to them, are binding in these cases if they fall under if they're brought under those acts. So I can't quite figure out actually about what's been going on with the New Zealand Maori Council taking a claim about the sale of the state-owned assets, for example, to the Waitangi Tribunal. The Waitangi Tribunal is saying no, this can't happen, and then the government saying, oh well, we're not going to take any notice. That's the law. The law says under the Act that the decision of the Waitangi Tribunal is binding. So, I mean, I had occasion to say this today in another context about a trespass that's going on. The Crown is bound by the statute. The Crown itself is bound by the statute. It cannot say it doesn't apply to us. Since 1952, the Crown has been bound by every statute in New Zealand. There is not, you can't find one Act of Parliament that the Crown is not bound by.